Hi, I'm horror author Paul Edwards. Tonight I'm listening to Famous Monsters Speak from 1963. This is a CD, but in 1963, Famous Monsters Speak was released as a vinyl LP. It was a novelty record, the kind of record that kids would buy as they were anticipating Halloween or possibly play at a Halloween party. Something like a haunted house sound effects record. This project was the brainchild of Jim Warren, publisher of Famous Monsters of Filmland magazine, which by 1963 had become extremely popular, and we were now in the height of the first wave of monster kids, where monster fandom was all the rage. So this project was pretty much guaranteed to be a big seller, and it did become a big seller. The record consists of two stories, one on each side. Remember album sides? Side A is the story of Frankenstein, and side B is a story of Dracula. In side A, Cherny Berg has written a story where the listener is present at a big scientific conference, and the huge discovery that's been made is that Dr. Frankenstein turned out to have been real, not just fictitious, and he left some primitive voice recordings of the Frankenstein monster speaking. And the sound equipment invented by Dr. Frankenstein has been reconstructed, and they're playing for the audience the sounds of the Frankenstein monster speaking into the recording. Because this is going to be a record of the monster speaking, we're giving a somewhat intelligent version of the monster here. We're given a monster that can express himself in full sentences and thoughts, and is not quite as bright as the Frankenstein monster from the novel, but is much brighter than the Frankenstein monster we're used to seeing depicted on film. And the monster reminisces about his creation in the lab, and as he's reminiscing, we hear all the sound effects of Tesla coils and electrical equipment running. He reminisces about breaking free and rampaging through the countryside and terrorizing the villagers, then returning to Frankenstein Castle and confronting Dr. Frankenstein. And the monster states all the mixed feelings he has toward Dr. Frankenstein. He has this love-hate relationship with his creator. All of this is done to the background of sound effects, and every now and then they cut back to the audience listening to the Frankenstein recordings, and there are murmurs of fear and dread among the audience as the monster's state of mind gets worse and worse. Side B is a Dracula story. In this story, a man is typing away at an old-fashioned 20th century typewriter, and he has only an hour left in which to commit to paper his story of how he met Dracula. The reason he has only an hour left is because Dracula is going to come in and kill him at midnight. So the narrator reminisces about how he was in the museum and found a door that didn't seem to be used by anyone, and he went into this forbidden section of the museum and found an underworld that Dracula and his hordes of monstrous followers all inhabit. And Dracula is speaking to the narrator, telling him that he has a mission for the narrator. He wants the narrator to tell the world about the fact that Dracula is real. Dracula's decided he's going to go public now. And he's explaining himself and his activities to the narrator. And of course, the hordes of werewolves and zombies and bats that Dracula all has under his command have to come in and make background noises and sound effects. And then Dracula takes the narrator with him as he turns into a bat, flies into the city, turns back into human form, and victimizes a young lady. And the narrator is a helpless witness to these horrors. And as Dracula continues to take the narrator on his guided tour of the underworld, Dracula reveals that he now wants to turn the narrator into a vampire. And the narrator runs away, and Dracula warns him that he's going to come get him at a certain future time. And then that brings us back to the close of the story. The narrator's finishing typing away at his typewriter. He's just finishing typing the story when the door opens and Dracula comes in to get him. That's a lot of voices. All these voices were one guy, Gabriel Dell, formerly of the Bowery Boys. And no, that's not an old boy band. The Bowery Boys was a movie series. Gabriel Dell did all these voices, not just Dracula and the Frankenstein monster, but all the incidental voices too. It's quite an experience listening to the two sides of this, knowing that it was all one guy. And Famous Monsters Speak sold quite well, and it's fondly remembered by many a monster kid. Listen, if you enjoy classic monsters and vintage horror, check out my book series, the Mourner's Woods books. I'm self-published on Amazon. I write books for people who enjoy 20th century monster movies. That's what it is. I've set a series of stories in a haunted forest with different monsters in each book. My name again is Paul Edwards. My books are the Mourner's Woods books. I'll post a link in the description below. Thanks for spending some time reminiscing with me about Famous Monsters Speak. I'll see you in Mourner's Woods.